got 12 today, so I don't know.
He's going to get more. That's what he's asking.
Is he en route? He's coming now? Yeah.
Use the microphone, please.
Hello. This obviously, as you were looking back on special teams last year, it was a bit of a mess here. Can you talk about what Coach Cutweek has brought to the team and the way he's managed to sell these guys on special teams, which might have been a kind of a tough sell after last year?
Well, we first of all have to sell the fact that it is a very important phase of a football game, equally as important as offense and defense. So there's a sense of accountability amongst our players that has to be taught, and Coach Cotweek is a perfect guy to teach that. You know, he's a go-getter, no question about it. He's very organized, and he is to the point, doesn't beat around the bush, and I think players respect him a lot in that regard. And he and Coach Bant have done a good job of rallying the troops, getting them in there, and when they're in there, doing a good job of having organization, a purpose for what they're doing, and guys are buying in.
Jay,
I'm sorry. Obviously, Coach Haslam has a good deal of autonomy with the defense. I assume Coach Cutweek has the same with the special teams. You pretty much. How much are you involved in the special teams?
Special teams, not much. Not much. I let Coach Cotweek and Coach O's. He's pretty bossy, but you know, I like to sit in his meetings and pay attention, so I know what's going on. I missed the last meeting or two here because we were pretty busy, but overall, Coach Cotweek is a special team coach, and you know, any crazy things that are happening, I'm sure I'm going to be well informed. But right now, it's about teaching the basic fundamentals, the basic schemes of what we're doing on punt return, kickoff return, field goal, block, field goal, and there's really no sense of alarm here. I feel like very comfortable when I go out there and watch practice that everything's under control.
Jay, on the interception that D'Angelo had on Robert this morning, he told us afterwards that him and Deshaun, and I think it was you, maybe it was Sean, kind of worked something out afterwards so that wouldn't happen again, whatever happened. Do you find him saying in those situations anything unique, anything different, anything that maybe surprises you for a quarterback with some of the stuff that he's had to deal with in kind of a new scheme, or is it pretty much basic adjustments that he's talking about?
It's basic adjustments. You're talking about who, Deshaun or Robert? Robert, yeah, no, it's seeing things. You know, they gave us a little disguise in the coverage. They blitzed off that side, and D'Angelo was a rolled-up corner, and Robert just thought that our first progression, Jordan, was covered, and he wasn't. You know, he just got to, you know, see through the progression a little bit, stay on it a little bit longer, and was a little bit antsy, and then fired it out there to Deshaun, and Deshaun stopped his route, and D'Angelo jumped it, and, you know, so it was a combination of a lot of things, but that's going to happen from time to time, and we just got to fight through it. You just got to stick with this number one progression a little bit longer, and everything would have been fine.
Jay, now that you guys are in pads, can you talk about what your philosophy is just as far as padded practices, the hitting that you like to go on, full pad practices, that sort of thing?
I think it's dependent on how we're doing as far as health-wise, how much we feel like we're getting in. I think right now we're to a point we're going to go pads today, or pads tomorrow, and then pads on Monday, and then we'll take a day off. And then we'll see where we stand. If everybody's fairly healthy and we feel like as coaches we can continue to add the shoulder pads, we'll do it. If we need to taper off a little bit based on health of our players, we will. But I think that is a day-to-day decision by the coaching staff.
Jay, staying on that subject, Barry Cofield said earlier today that he's noticed that practice was a little more physical and maybe a little more intense than it has been in recent years around here. He said that kind of has taken on your personality. Why is that?
I don't know. I just like the competition. I think it's very important for the defense to give the offense the best look possible and vice versa. And we can't do that if we're just muddling around playing buddy football. So very important to look at our players, our scheme. In order to look at your scheme and players and coach it up properly, we got to have people playing full speed and with good pad level. Fundamentals in football come with good pad level. And if you don't have good pad level, then you're not teaching good fundamentals. And if you have good pad level, then it's going to be physical. And that's the way it is. Low man wins. We know that. And so if you have competition, you have good pad level, then it's going to be physical. And we will taper off, like I said, if it becomes too physical, and we got to try to control it sometimes. We had tempers flare a little bit today, which will happen from time to time, but very important for the line of scrimmage. And it's my belief that the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively, is the most important phase in football. You know, you protect your quarterback, you can open up running lanes. If you get after the quarterback and stop the run, you're going to win more times than you lose. That's a fact.
Jay, one of the things that I'm sure you know about is that some head coaches do micromanage everything. You don't seem to be that type of guy, and players have talked about they don't get that vibe from you. Can you envision, though, a situation where, hey, you have experienced coaches, you're going to let them do their thing, but at some point, if you have to, getting more involved with it, if the situation dictates that?
Yeah, but yes, because ultimately it's on me, ultimately. But right now my decision is to let the coaches that I've hired coach, and the personnel players work with personnel, and the GMs work with the contracts, But ultimately it's my neck on the line. But right now I see everything is going smoothly, and I know we're going to have some ups and downs, and I'm going to have to probably stick my head in a meeting here or there and try to clear some things up and make some tough decisions here or there with scheme or player personnel making a cut or what have you, playing time. But right now I just want to make sure that the guys that I hired are allowed to do their job, and that's coach. And sometimes they don't feel like they can do their job when the head coach is always looking over their shoulder saying, don't do that, don't do this. I want to let them coach and give them the freedom to do what they like to do. And, there might come a point where I have to stick my head in Coach Kotwika's meeting room or what have you, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. I have. That's just not my style.
Jay, over to you. Right? Santana is a guy that's seen an awful lot in his years here. How do you approach a veteran like that who has seen a lot of coaches, a lot of schemes, a lot of ways that he may or may not be used? How do you get him to buy into your philosophy and what you envision his role being with this team?
That's a good question. Santana's a veteran guy, and he can do everything also. He's a guy a lot like Andre where he can play inside and outside. He's a veteran guy who's been through a lot of big games, played a lot of big games, caught a ton of balls, touchdowns, been there, done that. So he is a very valuable asset to this football team, not only from an experience standpoint, from a leadership standpoint in that receiver room. When you have young guys, Ryan Grant, guys looking up to some veteran leadership type guys, Santana's a perfect guy to look at. How much he's going to be used, I don't know right now. I like what he's doing. I don't think he's lost a step. I think he's still quick. I think he still knows how to run all the routes, which is good because he's run them all. But like I said, from the personnel grouping standpoint, if you line up with two receivers, who are those two going to be? Three receivers, who are those three going to be? And that's going to play out as the season goes on with injury and all that stuff. In the second day of training camp, I don't exactly know how we're going to use them, how much we're going to use them, when we're going to use them. But I like the fact that he's a Washington Redskin.
How is Corey Lickensacker's transition from guard to center been?
Very good, very good. Corey's done a nice job. It's not easy sometimes for a guard to move into center, but he's a natural center, in my opinion. He's got great movement, obviously. He's done good with the calls, and, of course, the snaps have been solid. We had 2 fumbled snaps the first day in the rain. Other than that, in the OTAs and today, everything's been clean. So I'm very happy with Corey's progress.
Richard Crawford got a pretty serious knee injury about 11 months ago. Came out the other day for practice, no knee brace, no compression sleeve, no nothing. Just, what have you seen of his recovery for one thing, and has it surprised you, and what do you see his role on the team being?
It hasn't surprised me with his recovery. He's worked extremely hard. He's one of those guys that's worked really hard with Larry Hess, our trainers, and they've done a great job of getting him back. I haven't seen Richard play, since the OTAs. He wasn't available. So really my first look at him has been today and yesterday, and I really liked his quickness in and out of cuts. He can play nickel. He's a very good nickel, so I don't see what his role is right now. There's a major competition going on there in the secondary. There's a lot of guys that I could talk about up here that I want to see more of, and he's one of them. And that's the same with the receiver room, same with the offensive linemen. We have some guys that are very viable candidates to play certain roles, but we have to let it play out, let them compete. When the Patriots come here, we'll get a lot of good looks. We have 4 preseason games before we make any of those decisions, before I decide what kind of role they're going to have with the football team.
Jay, is there any player that looked better today with pads on versus maybe before when they weren't wearing pads?
Not really. I think they all stayed pretty true to form. I think the big thing offensively, offensive line-wise, I think we got pushed back a little bit more than I would like to have with some of the guys in the interior, but defensive line-wise, they still came off with good pad level. They did a good job. So for the first day, I think it might have been a feeling-out process, but overall I think everybody played up to what we thought they would. We have to continue to get better and get more explosive and get lower with our offensive linemen and protect a little bit better. But from a defensive standpoint, I was happy with the way they came off.
Jay, what's wrong with Evan Royster, and do you have a better sense now for where Jason Hatcher is in his recovery?
Evan Royster has a slight hamstring pull. He's day-to-day. When he feels like he can go, he'll go. And then Hatch is, like I said the other day, I'm just going to leave that up to Hatch and the trainer. And when they say they can go, he can go, he'll go. But I don't foresee it being a very long wait for him to be back in the lineup.
Coach, something else Barry Cofield said today was it's really nice to turn on SportsCenter and not see a Redskins update on the bottom line and some controversy between coach and quarterback. I wanted to know how happy you are, even though it's only 2 days in, that we're talking about pad level and we're talking about players as opposed to asking you how you're getting along with your quarterback and if there's a controversy or a rift between you guys. You're not team controversy.
Well, we're going to have our rifts, I'm sure, from time to time, but we're going to try to keep those in-house, and I'm sure for whatever reason they got exposed last year with the media. But I think anytime you have a disagreement with the player, I think it's between the player and the coach, and hopefully that stays that way. When we talk to the media, we'll talk about the team, and if you ask a question about a certain player, we'll answer it. But any disagreement we have, we got to clear up within ourselves, and then we'll talk to y'all. But it's been so far it's been clean. It's early. We haven't lost a game yet, and I'm sure once the bullets start flying, there will be some controversy from time to time, but it's important for us to handle it like men and take care of it in-house.
Yes. Is it clear in your mind how many running backs you're going to keep? And is there anything someone can show you here that's going to make you rethink that number?
Yeah, there's one thing about this time of year, there's nothing clear in my mind. I think we're going to run our plays, we're going to run our drills, and we're going to let the best players start to emerge. And hopefully the cream will rise to the crop, the cream will rise to the top. And that always happens once the games start coming through, the preseason games. But whether we keep 2, 3, 4 running backs is yet to be seen. How many receivers we'll keep, I don't know. How many linemen we're going to dress, I don't know. I know that we have a lot of viable candidates here. We're hoping that people emerge, like I said, and make it easy for us come cut-down day. We're not flipping coins, come time to make the 53-man roster. And I'm pretty sure that the type of guys that we have, I'm pretty sure we'll have some guys emerge to make it easy for us.
Hi, Coach. I know it's early, as we've been talking about, but have you noticed a difference in, I know you've only seen the film from last year, but the secondary guys, Amerson, Thompson, those guys, have you seen a difference in their play through the offseason?
I have, definitely with Amerson. Amerson's playing with a lot of confidence, a lot of swag about him, and that's very important. I mentioned that about D'Angelo Hall, how that is confident, and you got to have confidence. You got to have a little bit of swagger about you, and you can see him starting to mature in only his second year. So I really like where he's going, and Raheem's doing a great job with them, and his confidence is just getting more and more, and he's long, he can run, he's got great ball skills. So I really think he's got a chance to be one of the top corners in the NFL for a long time if he keeps going on the pace that he's going. As far as Chris Thompson's concerned, the injury bug has hit him a little bit last couple of years, but what he's done the last couple of days has been good and solid. Protection, knowledge of the system, running around, he's got good speed. We're going to start adding more and more plays for him designed to get him balls out of the backfield here in the next few days, so we'll see how he handles that.
Coach, Brandon Merriweather plays, I guess, what we can call a very physical game, and it hasn't always set well with the NFL. I wondered if you would talk to him about that, not just in terms of fines and things, but what it costs and what it costs the team in penalties, but what the long-term effects on his health might be.
That's a good point. And Brandon, he plays a very physical style of football. That's all he knows. But there is a rule now, obviously, and he's had to pay the price for it. And he understands that the next one is going to be a longer suspension. So we talked about that today, actually. I told him he's going to get a 2-practice suspension if he doesn't lower his target. But he's a good football player. He's tough. He's physical. He wants to do the right thing. Sometimes at that position, though, when the ball's in the air and he's trying to knock the ball out, sometimes they, unfortunately, make contact head-to-head, and it's not intentional. I don't think he has the intent to injure people. I think he has the intent to get the player down and get the ball out. Sometimes those incidents look worse than they are, but he does have to really watch his area of target, and hopefully we'll keep him on the field for 16 weeks because he is much needed in the secondary.
Jay, just in the time that you've been here, obviously you guys re-signed Chris Baker, but how have you seen him grow and get better and better? It seems like every practice, at least once, he's in the backfield stuffing a run.
Yes, he is. His mouth is growing too. He talks a lot. He's a fun guy to be around. He's excited to play. He's one of those guys that you can tell just once practice starts, he's having a great time, and he loves football, and that's half the battle. And Coach Burney is on him all the time, which helps. His weight's down. He's playing with a lot of energy, and he's been a force to be reckoned with for our offensive linemen. So I like where he's moving for this season to get started. He's got to maintain his weight and continue to play with great pad level like I talked about. And he's just one of those defensive linemen you throw in there that really are very good against the run, and he's really improving his pass rush skills also, which is what we need. We need another pass rusher on the inside, and he's starting to become one of those guys that can not only stop the run but also be a force in the passing game.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you guys.